Um, Even though the agenda says general public comment is next, we're actually going to jump ahead a little bit to 11.2 on our agenda, which is the fire aid grants update. So tonight, we're very fortunate to have with us both Chris Wallace and Lisa Clary Real from Fire Aid to give us an update on their grant activity, their grant program. I will let you know that we have a very limited time tonight, both for their presentation and for questions afterwards. So we will be able to take a few questions, but they will be from board members. I noticed that Lisa has already put her email address in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that. So if people tonight have questions and you aren't able to get your question asked and answered in our Zoom tonight, be sure to get Lisa's email from the chat. You can send her questions directly. And just so you know, if you forget to do that and you put something in the chat, we'll be able to get a copy of that chat tomorrow and get some questions answered for you. So, that being said, I'm going to turn it over, Lisa and Chris, to you guys for a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. I'm going to start. Thanks for
Okay.
having us and giving us the opportunity here tonight. Thanks for everyone for joining. My name is Chris Wallace. I'd like to start off by kind of summarizing our process and just giving a quick background just so everyone knows exactly what happened. Back in January, we hosted our Fire Aid benefit concert that was held at Intuit Dome in the Kia Forum. Though the we had about 33 artists that performed in both buildings, and we raised close to $100 million. That money was then entrusted with this process that I'm gonna explain a bit further. So we have a operations team and a grant advisory committee that have been doing the research, the outreach, and creating the slate of grant recommendations. We have planned 3 phases of grants. So the first one that went out already was our phase one, which was approximately 50 million. Our second round, which is recently announced, is 25. And the most important part about this conversation is that we have a third round of grants set for late August, early September. And when going back to our process, our grant advisory committee is made up of individuals who know the philanthropic and nonprofit sectors and have deep connections to both the Palisades and Altadena communities. And the grant recommendations are then brought from the advisory committee to the fire aid board, and then the fire aid board are the ones who make the final decisions. Once they make those decisions, the list of the final grantees is sent to a donor advised fund that has been holding the fire aid funding since January. The DAF reaches out to each grantee, arranges the payments of the grant funding either by wire transfer or check, and then the DAF also handles the grant agreements that are sent to each of the grantees. Also, just wanted to provide a little clarity on some news that you may or may not have read. But the Grants Advisory Committee, which includes the Annenberg Foundation, has never received a penny of fire aid funding, nor does it handle the fire aid dollars. The committee's work is being done pro bono by all parties involved, both on the advisory committee and the fire aid board. The DAF has requested reports from our grantees who have received either round one or round two grants, and we will collate those when received. But in the meantime, our team has been collecting stories and narratives from the grantees that reflect the impact of the funding. We have been working with some media outlets to help kind of tell some of those stories. But here with the next step of the process is my colleague Lisa. Lisa, take over.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you all for making time for us this evening. I've seen your agenda, so I'll be brief. I'm the lead for the fire aid operations team. First of all, I just want to say I've spent 40 plus years in philanthropy and nonprofits. I've seen economic recessions, the riots, the Northridge quake, pandemic. What you have gone through is unimaginable. And as you know, nothing that any of us have ever seen. So I just want to start by saying I'm so sorry for your loss. To pick up a little bit on the strategy behind our giving, we pulled together a team days after the wildfires hit. We worked really hard for months trying to do what's best for all of the impacted communities. When you look at the round one list on our website, you'll see we went intentionally wide and deep because the crisis is just so deep. We reached out originally and initially to our trusted partners in the community. And honestly, the challenge was that we heard so many competing priorities, but some rose to the top for us, and we focused on them in round one. One of them was direct relief, especially in the form of cash, gift cards, grocery cards. Sometimes that relief even took another form, like our friends at the Change Reaction who shared that they bought an electric bicycle for a Palisades resident and teacher who had lost everything. Food access was another priority that we heard from everyone. And we saw 30% increases being reported by food pantries and food banks,
Mm.
much like the West Side Food Bank, who used some of their fire aid funding to organize monthly distributions in partnership with Santa Monica College. And these were specifically for displaced Palisades residents and displaced Palisades workers. We felt navigation and legal aid was important, and we focused on that in round one. We really wanted to help people access benefits that they deserved and to navigate the awful bureaucracies we were hearing from FEMA, the insurance companies, and the government. So one of our grantees in that category had to set up a special team to help those whose critical estate planning documents were destroyed in the fires. Another one directed residents who had lost homes and were about to lose temporary housing to additional financial resources. And then financial case management. As you all know, we wanted to help those struggling to find temporary housing and get ready for long-term rebuilding. So one of our grantees in round one helped renters in the Palisades, Malibu area, and another grantee brought in social workers to provide additional help, especially for the older adults who were displaced, had owned their homes for years, and had significant damage. In round two, we continued to address the need for direct relief. We knew it hadn't ended. We knew the need was still there, so we continued. And we did more related to small business recovery. We did more related to mental health. I was down at the Sears building a few months ago where Pali High is temporarily located. And I was reading the very moving messages from the Palisades High School students that were written up on this big wall near Margaret's Place, which is a round two grantee. And the messages reflected that healing is still underway for many of these students. And that visit helped us realize we needed to do more on mental health. So it helped frame some of our round two docket. And then we started in round two, moving over to what I'm sure some of you have already thought of or in the midst of doing, and that's the critical tools you need for successful rebuilding. So you'll see soil testing grants on that docket and remediation and easier permitting and even some sustainable home designs. And as I've said, we've been out there for months talking, reading data, reading reports, listening to people. We've spoken to folks in Maui, Paradise, and other locations that had fires, not quite of this magnitude, but pretty large. We heard their lessons learned. We even heard some of the mistakes they made. And all of that has been helping us frame how we're approaching this. And what they shared with us, and what we're hearing from some of the folks from Palisades and Altadena, is this is just not a sprint, it's a marathon. And that's why we've spread our funding out into three phases. So we have a really dedicated team. We're taking this very, very seriously. But I'm not going to tell you that we know everything. I mean, the crisis was enormous. You know this. We know there's more to learn. There are more people we need to meet. There's more listening to be done. There's more innovative solutions out there that we must hear. And that's kind of why we're here this evening, to reach out to you. And thank you to Sue and Chris for allowing us to do that. We're reaching out to you because we want to know what groups haven't we spoken to that we should be speaking to. And a shout out to Chris Spitz because she sent me a long list a couple of weeks ago, some of whom we'd already spoken to and others we had not. We also want to hear from you. What new issues have you identified, or struggles or challenges that we need to hear about? We're looking at round 3 being finalized around mid-September. So there's time to listen and to talk to you, to hear your thoughts. And just so you know, we're already strategizing. We're thinking through how do we help people continue their recovery? How can we best help people rebuild? Is there something they need more than not? How do we mitigate future fires? We're already hearing some things out there about mitigation. So as Chris mentioned, I've put my email address into the chat room. I want you to take my email, and if it's not me, it will be a member of my team that will connect with you. So one of us, the 3 of us, and they're 2 wonderful people, Amber and Allah, one of us will connect with you as soon as we receive your email. We really would love to hear your thoughts about recovery, about rebuilding, about some of your challenges, and any other issues you've identified that you think that we should know about as we strategize for round 3. And I'll pause there and then just thank you again for your time.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and thanks for giving us your email address. That's very helpful. I think Chris
Yeah,
Spitz
I
has a
couldn't get
question.
my icon or my emoji, whatever it is, up, but I did raise my hand to you earlier. So I just wanted to start out by saying I was really fortunate to be able to connect with Lisa, and as she said, we had some great communications. Especially, I was on some of the positive communications she had directly with some of our nonprofits, and that was great. Um, Lisa, I was actually going to ask you to tell us about your experience working with our Palisades nonprofits and leaders, but you've kind of already told us that. It's been, if you want to elaborate, that'd be great. But the other thing I wanted to ask, is it too early to ask if we can expect additional grants to be awarded in the 3rd round to some of our community organizations?
Well, sure. We can say for sure there will be grants to some of the community organizations in the 3rd round. What we've tried to do in each round is balance what we're doing, balance between small and large organizations. We try to balance between the different fire areas. So we don't want anybody to say, oh my God, you've given too much to Altadena, or oh my God, you've given too much to Palisades. This is very important for us. So round 3 will be also like that. We'll be looking, and that's, I talked to, if I thought I saw him on here, John from Pally Pride. I thought I saw him on here, but I just talked to him today, actually. Ironically,
He's on the call.
He's
Yeah,
on.
he's
ironically, we had a lovely conversation today, and we were trying to figure out what's the right timing for them to come to us or to send us a little proposal. So that's what we're doing with people. I know I talked to Jim at the Pally Y. We had already given 2 grants to the Y Metro that is helping the Pally Y, and Jim, who doesn't let any grass grow under his feet, has already scheduled a coffee with me and his team and the Metro team, so we can figure out what on earth they're going to do with their grants. So that's what we're trying to do. We're listening. I mean, if there's things that you feel, if you're with a nonprofit and you're on this call, by all means, please email me and we'll figure this out. We have a community grants program too. If you're very small and maybe too small for a very large grant, we have what's called the Fire Aid Community Grants Program. Those are grants from $10,000 to $50,000. I know we've got some small Palisades groups on that list that I just reviewed the other day. I think AYSO Soccer is on that list. I think there's a Palisades Little League group that's on that list. There's some others I saw on that list as well. So some people are reaching out to us through the portal or directly to me, and that's fine too.
Great. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lisa.
Uh, Lori?
Yes,
How's-
hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Sue?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. I'm sorry I don't have my camera on. I'm just driving. But Chris and Lisa, thank you so much for coming and sharing everything you've shared. Those stories of the people that you've helped gave me the chills. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. I have a quick question for you. Can you advise us as to what would be helpful for different organizations that are applying for the fire or for the fire aid money? What are some things that they should emphasize on their applications?
I'm going to be honest with you. We are trying so hard not to be like FEMA. Our application process is so simple. We don't want people who've already undergone trauma and catastrophe and lost homes and been displaced. We don't want you having to fill out huge narratives and multi-page narratives. So all we are looking for is what is your nonprofit doing to address fire relief? So it could be one of a couple
That's
of things.
great.
Either you're simply addressing or helping survivors of the fires, or perhaps you're an organization where you lost something. I mean, it could be, for instance, like the Palisades High baseball team. They reached out just before our round 2 was finalized. They had lost their field and they had to relocate. Their field was paved over to make room for temporary bungalows, and the poor team just had no place to go. So we're looking for, is there some gap that you've experienced that we can fill or temporarily fill? Or is there something you're doing to help fire survivors? It's very simple.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
I saw Sharon. Oh, you're on.
Okay. Lisa, thank you very much. Can you just advise us as to what would be helpful for organizations to emphasize when they apply for the fire aid for a grant? I mean,
What, I mean, we're asking people just to be honest with us. I mean, we're literally, I'd ask, let me give you, I hope you, John, I don't know if you can hear me. Do you mind if I just relay a little bit of our conversation this morning?
No, go right ahead. We had a great conversation and it was very informative and thorough. And I know a lot more now than I did at 9 o'clock this morning. So thank you for your time and please feel free to share.
Yeah, John was explaining to me the master plan for Palisades Pride and some of the things they're thinking, that you had created a beautiful master plan, and now here you're facing recovery and rebuilding your entire community. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you see? What are your plans? Are there things you should be doing to help rebuild? Are there things where you already know what the cost is? And he said, I don't know that yet, but I'll know it soon. So we're looking for that. I mean, what could it be that he needs? I'm just going to throw this out, that they're doing something to beautify certain corners that were completely burnt and are being rebuilt. Then he would send us that request, maybe with a budget. It's really very simple. It's got to be fire related. The one restriction we have, and that's what Chris Wallace mentioned, all the people that donated and bought tickets to these concerts. The one thing we have to go back and share with them is all of this money went to direct fire relief in some way. So that's our biggest criteria. It has to help fire survivors or do something to help with the rebuilding of these communities or something to help mitigate future fires, which is also in the mission statement.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to have to end it there because we have to move on. So, like I mentioned earlier, if your question wasn't answered, please email Lisa or put it in the chat. Emailing Lisa is probably the best idea. And again, I just want to thank you, Lisa and Chris, so much. I know you guys are working so many hours, and we really appreciate you spending your evening with us tonight. So
I
thank
see.
you.
No, thank you it's an honor to be here. And I see some great questions in the chat room. So if you can send them to me, I see this internship grants for high school and college students. We did a couple of those already. I'd love to talk to the person who wrote this. I see some other great questions, so please send them to me.
Okay. Well, I promise I'll do that tomorrow morning.